Hi. Oops. Okay. Welcome and welcome back. This is a two video in one day. So if you already saw my first one, mind your business. Okay, I'm gonna keep going. Another topic that I wanted to speak about today while I do my makeup to get ready to go is shame is the worst grief. I say this because during my first relationship, something that I feel like I didn't talk about enough was how much my breakup brought more shame than embarrassment. I'm not a person that gets embarrassed very easily, to be very quite honest with you. So it's very rare for me to feel any sort of embarrassment. But the shame that I felt during my first breakup was astonishing. I mean, that's when I really tried to put it into words what it felt like. Every time I was bringing it up to somebody that I cared about, I was in tears. And I sat down with myself and I asked myself, like, oh my God, why is it that, I'm so, like, ashamed? And you get into these relationships and you want to protect your partner's image. You don't want to tell too much. You don't want to reveal too much of your relationship to outsiders. At least that's how I am with relationships. I don't like to, talk about them all too much. And I remember vividly feeling like I sold a lie to everybody. Like everybody that I cared about. And at the time, that relationship, I was only telling people the good part of my relationship. People were telling me like, oh, you're going to be the first one to get married in the friend group. You have such a stable relationship, blah, blah, blah. Not understanding what was going on behind the scenes. And so when I announced that, my relationship was done, everybody was so surprised. What do you mean it's done? Like, what are you talking about? Like, what happened? Da, 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 da. And I'm sitting here, still not getting into the details of why it really ended. And I'm just, blaming factors that would both not make us look bad. And every time I would even think remotely or somebody would say, well, what caused for y'all to end it? I would get teary-eyed and I'll be, no, it wasn't anything serious. We kind of just fell out of love, whatever the case may be, blah, 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 the distance, whatever. And it was just so much more than that. But because I felt like I was selling a lie to people, I didn't want to ever admit to anybody like, oh, well, this was going on in my relationship and this was going on. And it wasn't necessarily like I was lying to them. I just was refraining from telling them what was going on in my relationship because, that's my privateness. Like, that's my private life. And it would always hurt my soul so much. And I'll just be like, oh my God, like, what am I ever going to do? Like, this feeling needs to stop. It is so unbearable. I hate feeling like this. Crying every time I brought it up. And shame is kind of the worst grief next to actual grief. Like, grieving that it like tackles you in your chest. And an exercise that I like to do when I'm shadow working is pinpointing the exact emotion that's making me feel the way I'm feeling. I don't necessarily like just saying, oh, I'm hurt, or just categorizing my emotions with one word. I like to pinpoint the exact word, and I also like to pinpoint where in my body am I feeling this emotion. And every time that I would bring up this this whole relationship ending, I would feel it like someone was grabbing my heart, squeezing it, and they wouldn't release it. I was like, man, like, this shit is like, this is shame. Like, this hurts. Like, I don't want to keep on bringing this up. And the thing with unconfronted emotions, if you don't confront them, they'll just keep coming back. So every time, even with people that already knew about the situation, even about with people that already knew about the situation, I would, still get teary-eyed. And it really do be on a Tuesday morning, man. On a Tuesday fucking morning. Actually, it was 3 a.m. And I was at a friend's house. And she asked me, you never went into details about what really happened. Why did y'all break up? And I remember it was almost as if I had allowed my body to release the shame that I was feeling. Because a lot of the time we like to contain the emotion. Pride and ego would really make you put a barrier on releasing the emotion that's causing for you to feel, or allowing you to move past the next step in your life or healing from that situation. And because of pride and ego, I would never want to tell people shame is what I'm feeling. I remember kind of entering that conversation with my brother one time, and I had told him, I feel so ashamed. And he was like, but none of this is your fault. Why are you ashamed? I was like, it felt like I was just telling people a lie. That was the first time I brought it up, and then I didn't go into details. And when that friend asked me what really happened, it was like my body was just genuinely tired of holding on to it. Like, pride and ego that day probably were absent. They were out doing groceries or something. And I bust out in tears, like real tears. And that shame was replaced by anger. And I start to let it all out. And and all of this, and and I stayed around for this, and at the end of me releasing shame, that's what acceptance felt like. That's what that last step after anger felt like, of like at ease. You know what I'm saying? At peace. And that's when I realized, okay, like I'm over this. Like, I needed to let this out. I needed to let myself know that I was aware and I was angry and I was upset with everything that had happened. And I think that was when I could actually put exactly into a perspective how shame made me feel. That was shame to me. Because embarrassment is like falling down in front of people. And then you get up and you're like, oh my God, I'm so embarrassed. Which doesn't happen too often with me, because when I trip, honestly, I laugh. And there isn't no after feeling. I've quite literally eliminated embarrassment. It still comes from time to time. I'm a human being, whatever the case may be. But embarrassment is not a feeling that I tend to feel very often. But shame is like a level higher than embarrassment. You really genuinely feel it. And it's a very painful emotion. No one can tell you otherwise. And I think a lot of the time in a lot of the situations, we stay in situations because of the shame that we know that's going to follow. And even if you're consciously not aware of the shame, subconsciously your body is already anticipating how it's going to make you look when you leave a relationship, a friendship, especially one where people had warned you prior, you should leave. This is not good for you. Whatever the case may be. And a lot of the time, this shame is something we go about with ourselves. I thought somebody walked in. It's usually something that we go about with ourselves. It's not something that we, shame is not an emotion that we want to have in front of us. And so you'll find every other way other than to leave, just to prove a point, whether it's to yourself or to the people that told you to leave. And I'm here to tell you, a couple of months of shame is not worth years of suffering. You do not have to stay years in a relationship, in a friendship, in a workplace that is not for you because of the shame You being scared to quit your job because people are going to tell you, well, what, you ain't got no job. What are you going to do now? Da, 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 da. Oh my God, this was your dream job. Why would you? The shame that follows after is literally what is stopping you from leaving. Okay? Same thing for friendships, especially friendships where it's like your mama already told you and you not trying to hear your mama's mouth. And she oh, da, 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 da. And you staying in something that doesn't benefit you, that doesn't bless you, that doesn't, pour into you. There's no point. I'm telling you that because that shame was felt for 7 months. And after I confronted that shame, I told myself, thank God I walked away. Because imagine I would have stayed out of the fear of staying in a relationship for shame. And it's such a strong emotion. It really does start small. Shame is not one of those emotions. That's why I said it's not embarrassment. Embarrassment is a short period emotion. You feel it just for a couple of minutes, seconds, days, maybe. Shame, it creeps in. It slowly creeps in. It slowly creeps in. And it creeps in ways like in your relationship, you will be talking to somebody and let's just say you and your significant other get in an argument. After you just told your homegirl, oh, he's such a good man, we barely argue, and boom, y'all just had y'all first argument. Shame. You probably would never talk about this argument. You'll linger in it, and that shame is installing itself into you. It's installing itself within yourself, and you're just allowing it, and then it builds up. And it builds up and it builds up and it builds up. And then you get into a space of, oh my God, I don't think I'm going to leave because the embarrassment, and that's where we miscategorize what it is. The embarrassment that I'm going to feel isn't going to be nice. It's not embarrassment, honey. It's shame. And you need to leave. Because once shame starts to, I'm saying, the cousin of shame is resentment. I'll tell you that much, okay? From experience. The cousin of shame is resentment. Sorry. The cousin of shame is resentment, Once you start resenting a situation, it's like you're digging a grave. And you're going down, and you're going down, and you're not going to stop. 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 I can't do two things at once. I'm so sorry, y'all. I'm sorry. And you won't stop. The situation is just going to keep getting worse. Because you just deem yourself, oh my God, I'm already too deep in. I might as well not leave. Wrong. You don't do that. You don't. You just leave. It's like, imagine digging a hole. Okay? And everybody's like, get out before it gets too deep. Get out before it gets too deep. But I'm already in the hole. I'm already 4 feet deep. I can't. There's no point in me getting out. No, but you gonna die. Why are you letting the hole get deeper and deeper and deeper? No, I don't know. I'm already 4 deep. Like, it's too late. Get out while you're 4 feet in. You get what I'm saying? Like, there's never it's always going to be too late. Okay? See it like that. So you rather be early to the lateness than be late to the lateness. I really hope that made sense, because in my head it ate. But what I'm trying to say, if you're already in it, you're already in it. So it doesn't really matter when you leave it. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, it could only get worse. Like, it could only get later. Like, time don't go backwards is what I'm trying to say. You don't revert time. So every day you telling yourself, I'm already too much in it. You're getting much in it even more. Wow, that was like a lot of rubbish. I really hope y'all catch it. I hope I threw it and y'all, you know what I'm saying? Y'all getting it, because I'm a little all over the place, okay? But yeah, that was the thought of the day today. And I'm realizing that this is going to be a 3-part video, because I can't do 2 things at once. So I'll see y'all in the next video. Thank you so much for tuning in. I love y'all. Mwah.